Amelia Carter had always been the quiet type. She wasn't someone who stood out in a crowd, and she preferred it that way. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, she learned early on to keep her head down and avoid drawing attention to herself. But as much as she tried to blend into the background, there was one thing about herself that she couldn't ignore: her body. Specifically, her chest. It wasn't that she hated how she looked. It was more complicated than that. For years, she'd felt like something was missing, like her reflection didn't quite match the person she wanted to be inside, not at 25. Amelia found herself stuck in a rut. She worked as a receptionist at a local salon, where she spent most of her days answering phones and scheduling appointments. The job paid the bills, but it didn't bring her joy. Her coworkers were nice enough, but they weren't exactly friends. Outside of work, Amelia spent most of her evenings alone in her tiny apartment, scrolling through social media or watching TV. Sometimes she would sketch pictures in a notebook she kept hidden under her bed. Drawing was the only thing that made her feel alive, but even then, she never showed her artwork to anyone. What if they didn't like it? What if they laughed? The truth was, Amelia's lack of confidence went deeper than her career or her hobbies. It started with how she saw herself. No matter what she wore or how much makeup she applied, she always felt plain. And when it came to dating, forget about it. She hadn't been on a date in over 2 years, not since her last boyfriend broke up with her, saying he needed space. Deep down, Amelia wondered if the real reason was because she wasn't pretty enough or interesting enough to hold his attention. One night, after another long day at work, Amelia sat on her couch staring at her laptop screen. She had typed "how to feel better about your body" into the search bar, hoping to find some advice that might help her shake off the feelings of inadequacy that seemed to follow her everywhere. Instead, she stumbled across an article about breast augmentation surgery. At first, she hesitated to click on it. The idea of going under the knife sounded scary, not to mention expensive. But curiosity got the better of her, and soon she was reading testimonial after testimonial from women who claimed the procedure had changed their lives. Their stories fascinated her. One woman wrote about how she finally felt confident wearing swimsuits without covering up with a towel. Another talked about how her posture improved because she no longer slouched to hide her figure. These women weren't vain. They were happy. They spoke about feeling comfortable in their own skin for the first time, and that resonated with Amelia. Maybe this was the answer she'd been looking for. Maybe this could be her chance to stop feeling invisible. For weeks, Amelia thought about it. She read articles, watched videos, and joined online forums where women discussed their experiences with plastic surgery. Some posts scared her. There were risks involved, after all, but others gave her hope. She started saving money from every paycheck, setting aside as much as she could afford. It wasn't easy. Rent, groceries, and utility bills ate up most of her income, leaving little room for extras. But Amelia was determined. If this was what it took to feel good about herself, then she was willing to make sacrifices. Finally, after months of research, Amelia decided to take the next step. She booked a consultation at a highly recommended clinic in Columbus, about an hour's drive from her hometown. The clinic belonged to Dr. Ryan Matthews, a name she recognized from glowing reviews online. According to the website, Dr. Matthews specialized in cosmetic procedures and had years of experience helping patients achieve their desired results. His before and after photos looked incredible, and his clients praised him not only for his skill, but also for his kindness and professionalism. On the morning of her appointment, Amelia woke up feeling a mix, much to her surprise. Dr. Matthews turned out to be nothing like what she expected. He was younger than she imagined, probably in his early 30s, with short brown hair and warm hazel eyes. His smile was friendly, but not overly polished, the kind that made you feel comfortable rather than intimidated. When he introduced himself, his voice carried a calmness that immediately put Amelia at ease. "Hi, Amelia," he said, shaking her hand firmly. "I'm Dr. Matthews, but please call me Ryan. I understand you're here to discuss breast augmentation?" Amelia nodded, clutching her folder tightly against her chest. "Yes," she replied softly, her cheeks flushing pink. "I've been thinking about it for a while now." Ryan gestured for her to sit down in one of the chairs across from his desk. "Take your time," he said gently. "This is a big decision, and I want to make sure you have all the information you need." As they began talking, Amelia found herself opening up in ways she hadn't anticipated. She told Ryan about her insecurities, her struggles with confidence, and why she thought this procedure might help her feel better about herself. To her relief, he listened attentively, nodding along and asking thoughtful questions. He didn't judge her or try to convince her one way or the other. Instead, he focused on understanding her goals and ensuring she had realistic expectations. Ryan explained the details of the surgery, including the potential risks and recovery process. He showed her examples of different implant sizes and shapes, helping her visualize what the results might look like. By the end of the consultation, Amelia felt more informed and surprisingly hopeful. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she didn't feel ashamed of her body. But as Amelia left the clinic that day, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something different about Ryan. Sure, he was professional and knowledgeable, but there was also a warmth to him that she hadn't encountered in many people. Something about the way he spoke to her, like she mattered, stuck with her long after their meeting ended. Little did she know, Ryan was feeling the same way about her. Back at his office, Ryan sat at his desk, reviewing Amelia's file. There was something about her that intrigued him. Most of his clients came from wealthy backgrounds, accustomed to luxury and privilege. But Amelia was different. She struck him as genuine and humble, someone who approached life with quiet determination. As he jotted down notes about her case, he realized he was looking forward to seeing her again. What neither of them knew was that this simple consultation would set off a chain of events neither could have predicted. For now, though, both Amelia and Ryan returned to their respective routines, unaware of the connection beginning to form between them. The days leading up to her surgery were a whirlwind of emotions for Amelia. On one hand, she was excited about the possibility of finally feeling comfortable in her own skin. On the other hand, she couldn't shake the nerves that came with the thought of going under anesthesia and undergoing such a significant procedure. What if something went wrong? What if she didn't like the results? These questions swirled in her mind constantly, keeping her awake at night not to distract herself. Amelia threw herself into preparing for the big day. She followed all of Dr. Matthews' pre-surgery instructions carefully, from avoiding certain medications to making sure she had someone lined up to drive her home afterward. Her best friend, Lisa, agreed to stay with her during the first few days of recovery, which gave Amelia some peace of mind. Still, no matter how much she tried to focus on the practical details, her thoughts kept drifting back to Ryan. There was something about him that lingered in her mind long after their consultation. It wasn't just his professionalism, or the way he explained everything so clearly. It was deeper than that. He had this calm, steady presence that made her feel safe, like she could trust him completely. And then there was the way he looked at her, not with pity or judgment, but with genuine interest. No one had ever paid attention to her the way Ryan did, and it left an impression she couldn't quite put into words. When the day of the surgery finally arrived, Amelia woke up early, her stomach tied in knots. She chose a loose-fitting shirt and sweatpants to wear to the clinic, knowing she'd need something comfortable for the ride home. As she drove to Columbus, Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles turning white. The closer she got to the clinic, the more anxious she became. By the time she pulled into the parking lot, her heart was racing. Inside, the waiting room was quiet and serene, decorated in soft neutral tones that helped soothe her nerves. A nurse greeted her warmly and led her to a private room where she would wait until it was time for the procedure. As Amelia sat there in her hospital gown, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't help but wonder what Ryan was doing right now. Was he already scrubbing in? Preparing the operating room? Thinking about her? Her thoughts were interrupted when the door opened, and Ryan walked in. He was wearing his scrubs, a clipboard in hand, and that same reassuring smile she remembered from their consultation. "Good morning, Amelia," he said softly. "How are you feeling?" "Nervous," she admitted, her voice barely above. "Whisper. I've never done anything like this before." Ryan nodded understandingly. "That's completely normal," he assured her. "But I want you to know that you're in good hands. We'll take care of everything, and before you know it, you'll be waking up in the recovery room." Amelia managed a small smile, though her hands were still trembling. Sensing her anxiety, Ryan pulled up a chair and sat down beside her. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. When she nodded, he continued, "I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen patients go through the same emotions you're experiencing right now. But almost every single one of them has told me later that they're glad they went through with it. You're taking a step toward becoming the person you want to be, and that's something to be proud of." His words struck a chord with Amelia. For the first time that morning, she felt a flicker of confidence. Maybe this really was the right decision. "Thank you," she murmured, meeting his gaze briefly before looking away. "You're welcome," Ryan replied with a warm smile. "Now, let's go over a few last-minute details before we get started." As they discussed the specifics of the procedure, Amelia found herself relaxing a little. Ryan's calm demeanor and clear explanations made everything seem less overwhelming. Before she knew it, a nurse came in to administer the anesthesia, and within minutes, Amelia drifted off into a deep sleep. When Amelia woke up in the recovery room, everything felt hazy. Her chest was sore, and her throat felt dry, but overall, she was relieved to find herself alive and breathing. A nurse hovered nearby, checking her vitals and asking if she needed anything. Through the fog of grogginess, Amelia noticed Ryan, standing by the doorway, watching her with a concerned expression. "How are you feeling?" he asked as he approached her bedside. "Tired," Amelia mumbled, blinking slowly, "and sore." "That's normal," Ryan reassured her. "You did great. Everything went smoothly, and I'm happy with how it turned out. Just give yourself time to heal, and soon you'll start noticing the changes." Amelia nodded weakly, too exhausted to form coherent sentences. Despite her fatigue, she felt a sense of relief wash over her. The hardest part was over, and now all she had to do was recover. Over the next few weeks, Ryan checked in on Amelia regularly, both in person and via phone calls. Each visit brought new progress. Her swelling began to decrease, her energy levels improved, and she started to see glimpses of her new body in the mirror. With each passing day, Amelia grew more confident, not just in her appearance, but in herself as a whole. During one of these follow-up appointments, Ryan noticed a shift in her demeanor. Gone was the nervous, self-conscious woman who had first walked into his office months ago. In her place stood someone stronger, more assured. It wasn't just physical changes. He could see it in the way she carried herself, the way she spoke. Something had clicked inside her, and it showed. Curious about this transformation, Ryan decided to ask her about it during their next meeting. "You seem different lately," he said as they sat in his office discussing her recovery. "More confident. Did something change for you?" Amelia hesitated, unsure how to put her feelings into words. "I think I think this experience made me realize I'm capable of more than I thought, she admitted. Before, I always doubted myself, whether it was my looks or my abilities. But going through this surgery and seeing how far I've come, it's taught me that I can handle challenges if I set my mind to it. Ryan smiled, impressed by her insight. That's amazing to hear, he said sincerely. It takes courage to make a change like this, and even more courage to grow from it. I'm really proud of you. Amelia blushed at the compliment, unused, to receiving praise so openly. Thank you, she said quietly. I don't think I could have done it without your support. Their conversation flowed naturally after that, shifting from her recovery to other topics. Ryan shared stories about his own journey, how he grew up in a working-class family, worked multiple jobs to pay for medical school, and eventually built his practice from scratch. Amelia listened intently, amazed by his determination and humility. In turn, she opened up about her passion for drawing and her dream of becoming an illustrator someday. Though fear had held her back until now, she confessed that she wanted to pursue it seriously. I think you should, Ryan encouraged her. Life's too short to let fear stop you from chasing your dreams. If anyone can do it, it's you. Amelia felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. She hadn't expected to find someone who believed in her so wholeheartedly, especially someone like Ryan. As they wrapped up their appointment, she realized she was starting to see him in a new light, not just as her doctor, but as someone who genuinely cared about her well-being. For Ryan, the connection between them was becoming harder to ignore. There was something about Amelia's vulnerability and strength that drew him in. He admired her resilience, her willingness to take risks for the sake of self-improvement. But he also knew that crossing professional boundaries could complicate things, and he wasn't ready to jeopardize the trust they had built. Still, as Amelia left his office that day, waving goodbye with a shy smile, Ryan couldn't help but wonder where this path might lead. Little did either of them know, their story was only beginning. As the weeks turned into months, Amelia's recovery progressed steadily. The initial discomfort and swelling faded, replaced by a growing sense of confidence she hadn't felt in years. Looking at herself in the mirror now, she saw someone different. Staring back a version of herself that felt more aligned with who she wanted to be. Her posture improved naturally. She no longer slouched to hide her figure. She started experimenting with clothes she would have avoided before, like fitted tops and dresses. Even her coworkers at the salon noticed the change. You seem happier lately, Lisa remarked one afternoon as they sat together during a slow shift. Is it because of the surgery? Amelia hesitated for a moment, unsure how much to share. Partly, she admitted finally. But I think it's more than that. It's like, I feel like I've taken control of something I used to feel powerless about. Does that make sense? Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Totally. You've always been so hard on yourself, but now you just seem lighter, you know? Like you're letting go of some of that weight. Amelia smiled, grateful for her friend's observation. What Lisa didn't know what Amelia hadn't told anyone yet was how much Ryan had contributed to this transformation. His encouragement during her recovery went beyond medical advice. He treated her like a person, not just a patient, and his belief in her potential inspired her to believe in herself too. Meanwhile, Ryan found himself thinking about Amelia more often than he cared to admit. Between surgeries, consultations, and managing his clinic, he kept finding moments where his thoughts drifted back to her. There was something about her sincerity and determination that intrigued him. Most of his clients came from privileged backgrounds, accustomed to luxury and instant gratification. But Amelia was different. She worked hard for everything she had, and she carried herself with quiet resilience. Ryan knew he needed to tread carefully. As her doctor, he had a responsibility to maintain professional boundaries. Yet, Every time they interacted, those boundaries felt increasingly blurred. Their conversations had grown deeper over time, moving beyond recovery, updates to discussions about their lives, dreams, and fears. Ryan admired Amelia's courage, not just in pursuing the surgery, but in opening up about her insecurities and aspirations. And somewhere along the way, he realized he wasn't just interested in her as a patient anymore. One evening, after a particularly long day at the clinic, Ryan decided to send Amelia a text message. It was nothing too personal, just a quick check-in to see how she was feeling. "Hey, Amelia," he wrote. "Hope you're doing well. How's everything going with your recovery?" To his surprise, she replied almost immediately. "Hi, Ryan. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Still taking it easy, but I feel amazing compared to before. Thanks again for everything. You've been such a huge help." Her response made him smile. He typed back, "I'm glad to hear that. Honestly, it's been rewarding seeing your progress. Keep taking care of yourself." Their exchange ended there, but it left Ryan feeling lighter. Somehow, reaching out to her felt natural, like reconnecting with an old friend rather than contacting a patient. Over the next few days, they continued texting sporadically, small, casual messages about work, hobbies, or random things they found interesting. Each conversation brought them closer, though neither acknowledged a growing connection outright. A few weeks later, Ryan had an idea. He was hosting a charity gala at a local art gallery to raise funds for underprivileged artists. It was an annual event he organized through his foundation, and it always attracted a mix of art enthusiasts, philanthropists, and creatives. As he reviewed the guest list, he realized he wanted Amelia to attend. Not only did he think she'd enjoy the atmosphere, but he also wanted to introduce her to people who might inspire her own artistic journey. "Would you like to come?" he asked her during one of their follow-up appointments. "It's nothing formal, just a chance to support local artists and maybe meet some interesting people." Amelia hesitated. She wasn't used to attending events like this, especially ones filled with strangers. "I don't know," she said uncertainly. "I'm not really the gala type." Ryan chuckled softly. "Neither am I, honestly. But it's for a good cause, and I think you'd appreciate it. Plus, you could use a break from all the resting and recovering." Something in his tone, the gentle encouragement mixed with genuine interest, made Amelia reconsider. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll give it a try." On the night of the gala, Amelia arrived feeling nervous but excited. She wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves comfortably, paired with minimal jewelry. When she spotted Ryan across the room, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. He looked handsome in a tailored suit, chatting animatedly with a group of guests. As soon as he noticed her, he excused himself and walked over to greet her. "You made it," he said, with a warm smile. "I'm glad." "Thanks for inviting me," Amelia replied, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "This place is beautiful." "It is," Ryan agreed, glancing around at the vibrant artwork lining the walls. "Come on, I want to show you something." He led her through the gallery, pointing out pieces he thought she might like. They stopped in front of a colorful abstract painting, its swirling patterns reminiscent of emotions spilling onto canvas. "What do you think?" Ryan asked. Amelia studied it for a moment, her eyes lighting up. "I love it," she said. "It feels alive, like it has a story to tell." "That's exactly what I thought when I first saw it," Ryan said approvingly. "You have a good eye." They spent the next hour exploring the gallery together, discussing art and sharing stories about their favorite pieces. For Amelia, it was refreshing to talk to someone who took such an interest in her perspective. By the end of the night, she felt more relaxed than she had in ages. Before leaving, Ryan handed her a small gift bag. "Here," he said. "Consider it a thank you for coming tonight." Amelia opened it cautiously, revealing a high-quality sketchbook and a set of charcoal pencils. Her breath caught in her throat. "Ryan, this is incredible," she stammered. "But why?" "Because I believe in you," he said simply. "You mentioned wanting to pursue illustration, right? I figured you could use these to get started." Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes as she hugged the sketchbook to her chest. No one had ever given her something so thoughtful or believed in her dreams so completely. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Ryan replied softly. "Just promise me you'll keep drawing." "I will," Amelia promised, meeting his gaze. In that moment, she realized she wasn't just grateful for his kindness. She was starting to develop feelings for him. The weeks following the gala deepened their bond. Ryan continued reaching out to Amelia, inviting her to other events or checking in on her progress. Their texts became longer and more frequent, often stretching late into the night. They talked about everything: books, movies, childhood memories, future goals. With each conversation, the line between doctor and patient grew fainter, replaced by something warmer and more intimate. One rainy evening, Ryan decided to take a risk. After a long day at work, he sent Amelia a message. "Hey, I know this might sound strange, but I've been thinking. Would you like to grab coffee sometime? Just the two of us?" Amelia stared at her phone, her heart pounding. Was he asking her out? She reread the message several times, trying to decipher his tone. Finally, she typed back, "Sure, I'd like that." They met at a cozy cafe downtown the following weekend. The rain pattered gently against the windows as they sipped their drinks and talked for hours. For the first time, they weren't discussing recovery plans or medical updates. They were simply getting to know each other as people. Ryan shared stories about his early struggles in medical school, while Amelia opened up about her fear of failure and her longing to create something meaningful with her art doc. By the end of their meeting, both of them felt a shift. What started as a professional relationship had evolved into something deeper, more personal. Neither of them wanted to rush things, but they couldn't deny the chemistry between them either. As they parted ways that evening, Ryan walked Amelia to her car. "I had a great time tonight," he said sincerely. "We should do this again soon." "Me too," Amelia replied, smiling shyly. "I'd like that." Standing there under the glow of the streetlights, surrounded by the sound of rain, they both knew they were stepping into uncharted territory. But for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt afraid. Instead, they felt hopeful. For what the future might hold, and for the possibility of something truly special blooming between them. The days following their coffee date marked a turning point for Amelia and Ryan. What had started as casual conversations and friendly check-ins now felt like the beginning of something more meaningful. They continued meeting up, sometimes at cafes, other times at art galleries or parks. Each outing brought them closer, allowing them to peel back layers of their personalities that they hadn't shared before. For Amelia, it was exhilarating yet nerve-wracking. She had never been in a situation like this, where someone cared so deeply about her dreams, fears, and quirks. And Ryan? He found himself looking forward to every moment they spent together, discovering new sides of her that fascinated him. Even more. One Saturday afternoon, Ryan invited Amelia to visit his home office. It wasn't grand or overly luxurious, but it reflected who he was, a mix of practicality and warmth. Shelves lined with medical textbooks stood next to framed photos of his family and friends. A small desk in the corner held stacks of papers and a laptop, while a cozy armchair sat near a window overlooking the backyard. "I thought you might like to see where I spend most of my time," Ryan said as he gestured for her to sit down. "It's not much, but it's mine." Amelia smiled, taking in the space. "It suits you," she said softly. It's comfortable. Ryan chuckled. Comfortable is good. I think life should be about finding spaces and people that make you feel at ease. His words lingered in the air between them, carrying an unspoken meaning. Amelia glanced at him, her cheeks flushing slightly. She wanted to say something, to tell him how much his kindness meant to her, but the words got stuck in her throat. Instead, she focused on the sketchbook he'd given her weeks ago, which she'd brought along to show him. Do you mind if I share something? She asked hesitantly, holding up the book. I've been working on some drawings. Of course, Ryan replied, leaning forward with genuine interest. Let me see. Amelia flipped through the pages slowly, revealing sketches of landscapes, portraits, and abstract designs. Some were rough drafts, others polished pieces. As Ryan studied each drawing, his expression softened. These are incredible, he said finally. You have real talent, Amelia. Have you ever thought about showing them to anyone? Amelia shook her head quickly. Not really. I mean, it's just scary, you know? Putting yourself out there like that. Ryan nodded understandingly. I get it. But sometimes, fear can hold us back from things we're meant to do. Remember what you told me about taking control of your life. This could be another step in that direction. His encouragement gave her pause. For years, she had kept her art hidden, afraid of rejection or judgment. But sitting here with Ryan, surrounded by his quiet support, she began to wonder if maybe it was time to take another leap of faith. Over the next few weeks, Ryan helped Amelia navigate the world of art exhibitions and galleries. Through connections from his charity events, he introduced her to local artists and gallery owners who welcomed her warmly. At first, Amelia felt out of place among these seasoned creatives, but Ryan stayed by her side, reminding her of her worth. Slowly, she began to open up, sharing bits of her story and letting others see her work. One evening, after attending an art showcase, Ryan and Amelia found themselves walking along a quiet riverside path. The sun was setting, casting golden hues. Across the water, they walked side by side, their shoulders brushing occasionally as they talked about everything and nothing. You know, Ryan said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence, I've been thinking about us. Amelia stopped mid-step, her heart skipping a beat. Us? She echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. Ryan turned to face her, his hands shoved into his pockets. Yeah, us. I know we start off as doctor and patient, and maybe that complicates things. But I can't ignore how I feel about you, Amelia. You're smart, kind, brave, and honestly, I haven't met anyone like you before. Amelia stared at him, unsure what to say. Part of her wanted to run away, to retreat back into the safety of her shell. But another part, the part that had grown stronger, thanks to Ryan's belief in her, knew she couldn't let fear dictate her choices anymore. I feel the same way, she admitted quietly, her eyes locked onto his. But what does this mean? Where do we go from here? Ryan stepped closer, his gaze steady. We take it slow. We figure it out together. But one thing I know for sure, I want to be part of your journey, however it unfolds. Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes as she nodded. Okay, she whispered. Let's try. Their relationship blossomed naturally after that conversation. Ryan remained professional when it came to Amelia's medical care, transferring her remaining follow-ups to a trusted colleague to avoid any ethical concerns. Outside of the clinic, they became inseparable, exploring new hobbies, attending events, and simply enjoying each other's company. Amelia continued pursuing her art, gaining confidence with each passing day. With Ryan's encouragement, she submitted one of her pieces to a local exhibition, and to her astonishment, it was accepted. On the night of the exhibition opening, Amelia stood nervously near her artwork, clutching a glass of sparkling water. The room buzzed with chatter as visitors moved from piece to piece, admiring the creativity on display. When Ryan arrived, his eyes immediately sought her out. He made his way through the crowd, stopping briefly to study her painting, an intricate depiction of a forest bathed in moonlight. "It's stunning," he said sincerely, standing beside her. "You should be proud." Amelia blushed, glancing at the small cluster of people admiring her work. "I still can't believe it's here, that people actually like it." "They don't just like it, they connect with it," Ryan replied. "That's what makes art powerful. And that's why I knew you could do this." His unwavering faith in her left Amelia speechless. She reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. In that moment, surrounded by strangers, yet feeling completely supported, she realized how far she had come. Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too. Ryan had played a huge role in that transformation, not by fixing her, but by believing in her potential and encouraging her to embrace it. As the evening wore on, Amelia noticed a shift within herself. She no longer felt invisible or insignificant. Instead, she felt seen, valued, and capable of achieving her dreams. And knowing that Ryan was by her side, cheering her on every step of the way, filled her with a sense of hope she hadn't known was possible. Back at home later that night, Amelia sat at her desk, flipping through her sketchbook. Her fingers paused on a blank page, and she picked up a pencil, letting her thoughts flow onto the paper. Sketch by sketch, she began to envision a future she once thought was out of reach, a future filled with art, love, and endless possibilities. Beside her, Ryan watched quietly, marveling at the strength and beauty of the woman he had grown to adore. Neither of them knew exactly what lay ahead, but for the first time, they weren't afraid of the unknown. Together, they had already overcome so much, and as long as they had each other, they knew they could face whatever challenges came their way. As the weeks turned into months, Amelia and Ryan's relationship continued to grow stronger. They spent nearly every free moment together, exploring new places, sharing meals, and simply enjoying each other's company. For Amelia, it was a time of self-discovery. With Ryan's support, she pushed herself out of her comfort zone in ways she never thought possible. She submitted more of her artwork to galleries, attended art classes to refine her skills, and even started an Instagram page to showcase her creations. Each small victory brought her closer to realizing her dream of becoming an illustrator. Ryan, too, found himself changing in subtle but meaningful ways. His life had always been centered around his work, building his clinic, helping patients, and managing his foundation. But now, for the first time, he allowed himself to prioritize something else: love. Being with Amelia made him see the world differently. Her passion for art inspired him to slow down and appreciate the beauty in everyday moments. He began taking photographs during their outings, capturing candid shots of Amelia, sketching or laughing under the sun. These little snapshots became cherished memories that reminded him how lucky he was to have her in his life. One Saturday morning, Ryan surprised Amelia with tickets to a weekend getaway at a cozy cabin near Hocking Hills. "I thought we could use some time away," he said, as they packed the car. "Just the two of us." Amelia smiled, feeling a flutter of excitement. "That sounds perfect," she replied. "I've never been there before." The drive to the cabin was peaceful, with autumn leaves painting the landscape in shades of red, orange, and gold. When they arrived, Amelia gasped at the sight of the rustic yet charming retreat nestled among towering trees. A small porch swing swayed gently in the breeze, and smoke curled lazily from the chimney. Inside, the cabin was warm and inviting, with soft blankets draped over furniture and a crackling fire already lit in the hearth. "This place is magical," Amelia said, setting her bag down. "Thank you for bringing me here." Ryan grinned. pulling her close. "Anything for you," he murmured, kissing her forehead. Over the next 2 days, they disconnected from the outside world. There were no phones ringing, no emails to check, no distractions, just the two of them and nature. They hiked through trails lined with colorful foliage, cooked meals together in the tiny kitchen, and stargazed late into the night. One evening, as they sat by the fire, wrapped in blankets, Amelia pulled out her sketchbook and began drawing the scene before them, the flickering flames, the shadowy trees, and Ryan sitting beside her. "What are you working on?" Ryan asked, leaning over to peek at her page. "It's us," Amelia replied softly. "This moment, I want to remember it forever." Ryan's heart swelled with emotion. He watched as her pencil moved across the paper, capturing not just the physical details, but the essence of their connection. It struck him how much they had grown together, not just as individuals, but as partners who supported and inspired one another. Back in Columbus, life resumed its usual rhythm, but the bond between Amelia and Ryan only deepened. Their weekends were filled with adventures, while weekdays were quieter, marked by texts and calls whenever they had a spare moment. Despite their busy schedules, they made time for each other, knowing that their relationship was worth prioritizing. One afternoon, Amelia received an email that sent her heart racing. A local publishing house wanted to feature one of her illustrations in an upcoming children's book. The message praised her style, calling it whimsical and full of heart. Amelia read the email over and over, unable to believe what she was seeing. When Ryan came over that evening, she practically tackled him with excitement. "Look," she exclaimed, shoving her laptop into his hands. "They want my art in a book." Ryan's face lit up as he scanned the email. "Amelia, this is incredible," he said, pulling her into a tight hug. "You're going to be published." Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes as she hugged him back. "I couldn't have done it without you," she whispered. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Ryan shook his head firmly. "No, Amelia, you did this. All I did was remind you of your own strength. And look where it's taken you." The opportunity energized Amelia, pushing her to create even more. She poured her heart into designing characters and scenes for the book, collaborating closely with the publisher to bring their vision to life. Meanwhile, Ryan continued supporting her in his own way, proofreading drafts, offering feedback, and celebrating every milestone along the way. As the publication date approached, Amelia grew increasingly nervous. What if people didn't like her work? What if critics tore it apart? Ryan noticed her anxiety and decided to plan a special surprise to lift her spirits. On the day the book was officially released, Ryan picked Amelia up early in the morning. "Where are we going?" she asked curiously as they drove through the city. "You'll see," Ryan replied mysteriously, a mischievous glint in his eye. They arrived at a large bookstore downtown, where a crowd had gathered near the entrance. Posters featuring Amelia's illustrations adorned the windows, and a table inside displayed stacks of the newly published book. Amelia froze, overwhelmed by the sight. "Oh my gosh," she breathed, clutching Ryan's arm. "Is this for me?" Ryan nodded, smiling proudly. "I arranged a launch event for you. Friends, family, colleagues, they're all here to celebrate your success." Amelia felt tears streaming down her cheeks as she stepped inside. People cheered and clapped, congratulating her on her achievement. Strangers approached her, gushing about how much they loved her art. For someone who had once felt invisible, it was surreal to be surrounded by so much love and admiration. Later that evening, after the event wound down, Amelia and Ryan returned to her apartment. Exhausted but elated, Amelia collapsed onto the couch, holding a copy of the book in her hands. On the cover was one of her illustrations, a whimsical forest scene with animals peeking out from behind trees. Beneath it, her name was printed in bold letters, illustrated by Amelia Carter. "I can't believe this is real," she said, shaking her head in disbelief. "It's real," Ryan assured her, sitting beside her. "And it's just the beginning." Amelia looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Ryan, I don't know what I'd do without you. You've changed my life in so many ways." Ryan took her hand, his expression serious. "Amelia, you've changed mine too. You've shown me what it means to truly care about someone too. Want the best for them, and to help them grow. I can't imagine my life without you either." There was a pause, heavy with unspoken words. Then Ryan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Amelia's breath caught in her throat as he opened it, revealing a delicate silver ring. "Amelia," he said softly, "you've taught me that love isn't about fixing someone. It's about standing beside them and cheering them on as they become the best version of themselves. You're my partner, my muse, and my everything. Will you marry me?" Amelia stared at him, stunned. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she nodded furiously. "Yes," she choked out. 1,000 times yes." Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a kiss. In that moment, surrounded by the quiet hum of the city outside, they both knew they had found something rare and precious, a love built on trust, encouragement, and shared dreams. In the months that followed, Amelia and Ryan began planning their future together. They talked about traveling, starting a family, and continuing to support each other's passions. Amelia's career as an illustrator took off, with more publishers reaching out to collaborate. Ryan expanded his foundation, using his resources to fund art programs for underprivileged youth, a cause close to both their hearts. Through it all, they remained each other's biggest cheerleaders. Their journey hadn't been easy. It was filled with challenges, doubts, and moments of vulnerability, but it had brought them closer than they ever thought possible. Together, they proved that love wasn't about perfection. It was about growth, resilience, and believing in each other. And as they stood side by side, ready to face whatever lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain: their story was just beginning. The months leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of excitement and preparation. Amelia and Ryan worked together to plan a simple yet meaningful ceremony that reflected who they were as a couple. They decided against a lavish event, opting instead for an intimate gathering at a countryside vineyard surrounded by close friends and family. The venue was picturesque, with rolling hills, rows of grapevines, and a rustic barn decorated with fairy lights and wildflowers. Amelia took charge of designing the invitations, pouring her artistic talent into creating something unique. Each card featured a hand-drawn illustration of the vineyard, along with delicate vines and flowers winding around the edges. When the invitations arrived in the mail, guests couldn't stop raving about how beautiful they were. For Amelia, it was another reminder of how far she had come, not just as an artist, but as someone who embraced her creativity without fear. Ryan handled most of the logistics, ensuring everything ran smoothly. He coordinated with vendors, arranged seating charts, and even helped pick out Amelia's dress during one of their shopping trips. Watching her try on different gowns, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with emotion. She looked radiant in every outfit, but there was one dress that stood out: a flowing ivory gown with lace detailing and a modest neckline. It wasn't flashy or extravagant, but it suited her perfectly. "This is the one," Ryan said softly. As Amelia stepped out of the dressing room, "You look breathtaking." Amelia blushed, meeting his gaze in the mirror. "Are you sure? It doesn't feel too plain?" "It feels like you," Ryan replied. "And that's exactly what I want." On the day of the wedding, the vineyard buzzed with quiet anticipation. Friends and family mingled under the late afternoon sun, sipping wine and admiring the scenery. Inside the barn, soft music played as final preparations were made. Amelia stood in front of a mirror, adjusting the veil pinned to her hair. Lisa, her maid of honor, hovered nearby, dabbing away tears. "You're going to knock him off his feet," Lisa said, hugging her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Ames." "Thanks," Amelia whispered, her voice trembling. "I can't believe this is happening." Outside, Ryan paced nervously near the altar, tugging at his tie. His best man, a childhood friend named Jake, clapped him on the shoulder. "Relax, man," Jake teased. "She's not going to run away." "I know," Ryan muttered, glancing toward the entrance. "It's just, I can't wait to see her." Finally, the moment arrived. As the string quartet began playing, everyone turned to watch Amelia walk down the aisle. Her father escorted her, his arm linked with hers, pride evident in his eyes. When Amelia reached Ryan, she handed her bouquet to Lisa and took his hands. Their eyes met, and all the nervous energy melted away, replaced by a deep sense of calm. The ceremony was short but heartfelt. A local pastor led them through their vows, which they had written themselves. Ryan spoke first, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. "Amelia, from the moment I met you, I knew you were special. You've taught me the importance of kindness, patience, and believing in others, even when they struggle to believe in themselves. I promise to stand by your side through every challenge, every triumph, and every step of our journey together." When it was Amelia's turn, she took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "Ryan, you saved me, not because you fixed me, but because you showed me I didn't need fixing. You gave me the courage to chase my dreams and reminded me that I'm worthy of love and happiness. I promise to support you, inspire you, and be the partner you deserve." As they exchanged rings and sealed their vows with a kiss, the crowd erupted into applause. Tears streamed down faces, including Amelia's and Ryan's. In that moment, surrounded by love and laughter, they felt like the luckiest people in the world. After the ceremony, the celebration continued with dinner, dancing, and speeches. Guests lined up to congratulate the newlyweds, sharing stories and well wishes. One guest, an elderly woman who had attended one of Ryan's charity events, approached Amelia with a warm smile. "Your art brought so much joy to my grandson," she said. "Thank you for using your talent to make the world brighter." Amelia blinked back tears, touched by the sentiment. "Thank you for saying that," she replied. "It means a lot." Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Amelia and Ryan shared their first dance as husband and wife. The song they chose was slow and romantic, its lyrics speaking of love and commitment. As they swayed beneath the twinkling lights, Amelia rested her head on Ryan's shoulder, feeling utterly content. "I still can't believe this is real," she murmured. "It's real," Ryan assured her, kissing the top of her head. "And it's only going to get better." In the weeks following the wedding, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Amelia dove back into her work, collaborating with publishers and expanding her portfolio. Her illustrations gained recognition, appearing in magazines, children's books, and even murals commissioned by local businesses. Ryan continued running his clinic and foundation, finding new ways to support aspiring artists and underserved communities. Their home became a reflection of their shared passions. The walls were adorned with Amelia's artwork, while shelves displayed photographs of their travels and mementos from their adventures. Together, they created a space that felt warm, welcoming, and uniquely theirs. One spring morning, Amelia woke up feeling unusually tired. At first, she brushed it off, assuming it was just stress from juggling multiple projects. But when the fatigue persisted, Ryan insisted she visit a doctor. After a series of tests, The results came back positive. Amelia was pregnant. The news left them both stunned but overjoyed. Parenthood was something they had talked about, but hadn't expected so soon. Over the next few months, they prepared eagerly for the arrival of their baby, turning a spare room into a nursery filled with hand-painted murals and handmade toys. When the day finally came, Amelia gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Holding their daughter for the first time, wrapped in a soft blanket, they felt an overwhelming rush of love. They named her Lily, after the wildflowers that had decorated their wedding venue. "She's perfect," Ryan whispered, cradling Lily in his arms. "Just like her dad," Amelia teased, leaning against him. As years passed, Amelia and Ryan built a life full of laughter, challenges, and countless blessings. Lily grew into a curious and imaginative child, often sitting beside her mother as she sketched or painted. Inspired by her parents, she developed a love for storytelling and art, filling notebooks with doodles and tailies of her own. Through it all, Amelia and Ryan remained each other's anchors. They supported one another through career changes, health scares, and the ups and downs of parenthood. Their relationship wasn't without its struggles. They argued occasionally, faced moments of doubt, and dealt with the inevitable stresses of life. But their bond only grew stronger with time. Looking back on their journey, Amelia realized how much she had transformed since that shy, insecure young woman who walked into Ryan's clinic years ago. She no longer doubted her worth or feared taking risks. Instead, she embraced life with confidence and gratitude, knowing she had someone who believed in her unconditionally. For Ryan, loving Amelia had been the greatest adventure of his life. She had shown him the beauty of vulnerability, the power of encouragement, and the joy of building a future together. Together, they proved that love wasn't about perfection. It was about growing, learning, and choosing each other every single day. And as they sat together on their porch one evening, watching Lily chase fireflies in the yard, they knew they had found something truly extraordinary. Their story, a tale of courage, connection, and unwavering support, was proof that sometimes life's greatest miracles happen when you least expect them.